Yeah.
Now, what one last thing that I want to dive into is, especially for smaller agencies and people just getting started, is this concept of imposter syndrome as they're trying to
Awesome.
sell. So, yeah, it's a big problem, and it leads
Mhm.
to undervaluing their solution. It leads to not reaching out to people and just getting paralyzed. It leads to focusing on the wrong offerings because you're not
Mhm.
actually digging into customer need. So, what would you say to the person really struggling with imposter syndrome and that's holding them back from selling?
Yeah. Well, I think the first and most important thing is that they are not you. I know people at, you know, 10-digit agencies that struggle with imposter syndrome and everything down to the solopreneur. I've struggled with it. I still sometimes like, I'm not going to put this out to the world. It's going to be garbage. So I think, the knowing that we're not unique is so important. But then there's, so what? Now what? So I know what I've got. I know what's bothering me. How do I get through it? A sounding board, a mastermind group, a mentor, a coach, and it doesn't even need to be somebody that you pay. I went to design school with 50 people. I'm still friends with maybe 5 or 10 of them. Through the early days of freelancing, I would call them up and be like, "Hey, how much would you charge for this? Oh, really? I'm not that off base." Or, "Hey, do you have a proposal template that I could use?" Or how would so asking somebody, there are any number of free groups for startups out there that you can bounce things off. Do it. Listen, family, friends, find somebody, build that network of people that are going to be your cheering squad, your hype girl, whatever you want to call it, to help elevate like where you're at is where you're supposed to be, and don't undervalue yourself. I always say, all right, so if you're going to charge $2,000 for it, charge $3,000 for it, because in most cases, if you haven't mathematically figured out what it's going to cost to do the project, and you're pulling a number out of thin air, it's way off. It's 30% too low. So
Yeah, especially if you're doing cost-based
yeah,
pricing, you've got to add some margin in there so that you're not
yeah,
shooting yourself in the foot later.
yeah,
And you're so right, Steve. There's so many free resources available. There's usually groups through your local chamber of commerce, and
yeah,
there are startup groups that meet virtually. You can find a meetup even. Just go on meetup.com, find
yeah,
groups of people that are in a similar situation. You could even host something so that you meet other people. Steve,
yeah,
you and I are both part of the Bureau of Digital, which has a
yep.
ton of like-minded agency owners and creatives in there as well. That one's not free, but it's really not that much either.
It's
Um,
not. It's worth it
yeah,
for the networking. I
totally.
would throw out two other groups that offer similar community/mentorship for any stage owner. Creative Mornings is global. It's massive. It's awesome. It is based on just love for community, and it exudes that. And it's $8 a month or something silly like that. But if you're just starting out and you're a freelancer and you're trying to find people to bounce things off, Creative Mornings is great. AIGA is another one. They have a mentorship program that I've been an honor to be part of the mentoring side of that, where it's people in different stages of their careers or people in different stages of their agencies looking for guidance. And so, between Bureau of Digital and these other, like, there's so many groups out there where you can just really, hey, what would you charge for this? Or how do I get to this spot? Or, all those kinds of questions that we all had.
Yeah, and it's really okay as well to not have everything figured out. You don't need to
Yeah.
go into these meetings acting like you know exactly what you're doing because everyone knows no one knows what they're doing. Everyone's just doing the best that they can.
Yeah.
And by asking, by brainstorming with people in similar situations, you will get more value and be able to proceed more quickly in what
Yeah.
you're trying to achieve in your agency.
Yeah, agreed. I love that. It's so true. Everybody's just trying to figure it out and do the best that they can. And, when you're put on the spot by a client, let me do some math and I'll get back to you. Let me do some research and I'll get back to you. You know, we all think we've got to have all the answers all the time, and it's okay to not. It's okay to say, I'm going to look into that and get right back to you. And so you don't have to be, the smartest person in the room.